All
Dr.
right.
French, thank you so much for your time. Really looking forward to chat with you. For the listeners at home, will you tell us a little bit about your background, kind of your motivation, and kind of where you are currently?
Yeah, I mean, so I'll do it in reverse order, I guess. I'm currently the Vice President of Performance at the UFC Performance Institute in Las Vegas, Nevada. Prior to coming to the UFC, I was the Director of Performance Sciences at the University of Notre Dame, big up NCAA school, where I kind of coordinated a lot of the performance services over there for 27 different sports teams at Notre Dame.
Wow.
And then for a long period prior to that, I was back in the UK, where I'm originally from, working in the Olympic system. So I've worked 3 full Olympic cycles with different teams, including GB boxing, GB taekwondo, GB basketball, and a number of other sports. I spent most of my career back in the UK. I got my PhD in exercise physiology from the University of Connecticut. That set me off on my trails, and I've actually come full circle and returned back to the States to work.
That's awesome. So what kind of drew you to UFC and combat sports?
Well, I mean, listen, it's this job is this. I feel like I'm the luckiest man alive right now. This is an amazing role I've got, and I've always been a strength and conditioning coach. For 22 years, I've worked in different capacities as a strength and conditioning practitioner, included working with the GB boxing team through the Olympic Games in Beijing, and some of the medalists on the GB national team, and then more recently with the GB taekwondo team through to the Rio Olympics. So I've kind of got a history of working with combat athletes. Part of that just fell to me. It wasn't something I necessarily pursued, but I certainly have a massive affiliation for combat athletes. Their desire to work hard and go pretty hard and really value the importance of physical preparation is something that as a coach you want all the time with your athletes.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then you said the GB Taekwondo. What does the GB stand for?
Great Britain. So the British Olympic program. So when I was in the UK, I worked with what's called the English Institute of Sport. That's the primary service provider to all the Olympic programs back in the UK. And I was the head of strength and conditioning for the Great Britain Taekwondo team through to the Rio Olympics.
Awesome. And then will you kind of just explain a little bit what the setup is kind of like where you're at the UFC Performance Institute?
Yeah, so we have a high-performance facility. It's a 32,000 square foot facility here in Las Vegas that's on the world headquarters of the greater UFC. We provide performance services to the global roster of UFC fighters. So that's around 570 fighters globally. About half of those fighters live in North America, and about 27 of them now live in Las Vegas. It was around 13 when we first opened. And the Performance Institute is here to provide services free of charge and no cost to any of the fighters that are on our roster. And we provide services, world-class services in strength and conditioning, nutrition, physical therapy, sports science, recovery and regeneration, etc. And then we obviously, we don't have MMA coaches or wrestling coaches or grappling coaches here, but we provide all the other requirements that a world-class fighter might need.
Wow, that is some setup. That's really awesome. So you've worked at a couple different places here, right? Do you think all of those places, or which of those places do you think has really set you up to be in the position that you're in now?
I mean, all of them. I think in your career you take positives and negatives, and you spin every experience to be a teaching opportunity or a learning opportunity for you. So I've got everything from working at the coalface as a strength coach, and in my early days, and just working long hours and grinding. Through to more managerial type positions where I've been in leadership positions like at Notre Dame. I was coordinating up to 56, 57 different service providers, so a large scale operation. And I think you take positives out of everything. Learning how to manage my own time, learning how to manage other people, learning to build philosophies and structures that you can work against and strategize how you're going to improve performance. Ultimately, that's been captured throughout my career.
Fantastic. And you kind of touched on a little bit the hours in the college setting, right? So will you kind of compare and contrast of where you are now and how that kind of looks from the day-to-day setting?
Oh yeah, it's very different. But again, the different kind of business models.
Yeah.
I think in the collegiate setting, I often call college, NC2A is a logistical operation.
Yeah.
In as much as you're working with large number of sports teams, large number of athletes, and you're trying to do your best to maximize the potential in each one of those student athletes.
Yeah.
Here at the Performance Institute, we work very much on an individual level or with small training groups.
Okay.
We're an individual sport, right?
Yeah.
So it's a little bit different. I think in the NCAA, you obviously get condensed in terms of working around the academic studies as well.
Yeah.
So it frees up certain amounts of time, and obviously NCAA regulations allow you to work the kids out a certain amount of time. Here we can do it all day.
Yeah.
We don't have any classes to work against. And it means as a full-time professional athlete, your day looks a little bit different.
Yeah. Do you have a little bit more kind of leeway? Like, are you still working? Obviously, you still work hard and you still work a lot of hours, right? But is it the same kind of day-to-day grind where you're coming in super early and leaving super late, or do you have a little bit more freedom within that?
I mean, I think what I would say is that no one gets a gold medal for working hard and working long hours. That's not what it's about.
Yeah.
I think at every point in their career, people work hard. And I've been there and I've put those long hours in. But you got to make sure that it's valuable and efficient time.
Yeah.
And I'm certainly not an advocate of being the guy that has to clock in before the head coach arrives and clocks out after the head coach leaves, because everyone's got different roles and responsibilities. But I'm a massive advocate of a person's individual energy levels. And I say this to my staff. I want the best version of you to work for our organisation. So if you're overworked or you just need some time to decompress, I would rather you go and refresh and recharge and come back a better person.
Yeah.
So I say that because the Performance Institute, we have the opportunity to manage our time and to schedule accordingly, and we're not as regimented around academic schedules. But of course we work hard, and there's certain times and certain weeks when events are on and we're pulling in 15, 16-hour days.
Yeah.
But we also make sure that at other times we get away from the facility. And as we preach to our fighters or any athlete, you train hard, but it's the recovery when you truly get the adaptation to the training.
Yeah.
It's the same for ourselves in our work. We have to work hard, but you've got to leave the work environment decompress. That's when you regenerate, you come back to work tomorrow, you're going to be a better version of yourself, and all your athletes are going to see value with that.
Yeah, I love that. Okay. What kind of recommendation might you have for someone who's trying to do something similar to you?
I've always tried to, try to get as many strings to my bow as possible.
Yeah.
I'm not a badge collector for the sake of collecting badges.
Yeah.
Tried to be strategic, but I've always tried to be quite diverse and versatile in my skill set, and I think that makes you applicable to many different roles. Then, so. I always also say, we're not in a sports industry, we're in a people industry, right? Every day you're interacting with people, be it your athletes, trying to coach your fighters, trying to coach your athletes, whether it's reporting up the chain to a head coach or a CEO of an organization, working horizontally with other members of your team. You've got to communicate with people. So being a good person and being able to communicate well and get on well with people and influence others, it is a massive part of it. So having a big skill set, having a unique, diverse repertoire of skills is the really important one. And then being able to really put yourself forward, promote your character, to promote you as a person is huge. But you've got to be ambitious. It's high performance sport is a very competitive environment to be around, and there's certain things I've compromised over my career, but I know that that's what I wanted to do. So you've got to keep chasing the dream.
Yeah, that's inspiring. Okay, so if you didn't work in performance, what do you think you would choose as a profession?
Oh, geez, man, that's a tough question.
Yeah,
I mean, I would be a professional surfer if I could, and just tour the world, go into all the world's best beaches. But actually, as a kid, I was really into theatre.
Okay.
So this sounds kind of strange, and the reason I say it will hopefully become apparent. But I always wanted to be a set designer for like big Broadway musicals and West End musicals, because I'm very creative. I like to build and design and develop things, and I think that creative thought process always wanted me to be on the, to be in a theatre, because at the end of the day, it's like sport. You're working towards a production or a final product, and that's something that really resonates with me. Is the production of a theatrical show, or competing on the field, or in my case the octagon now. It's the same thing, but it's just a different approach, right?
Yeah, no, that's super interesting to see how like one's ambition can cut through from different professions, right? So that's super interesting to see. Okay. Yeah, and kind of moving forward a little bit, right? So what's kind of your approach to like training and assessment? So how might technology be used or utilized to kind of assess some of these high level athletes?
Yeah, so we all of our programming is built around objectivity and diagnostics. Again, it's for me. I say if you're not assessing, you're guessing. And at the world class level, if you're trying to be a world champion or a gold medalist on guessing whether you're improving or not, it's probably not the best approach, right? We're blessed here at the Performance Institute with some really good resources and investment around world-class technology and capabilities, and that helps us on a daily basis understand our fighters and have more involved direct conversations around whether they're progressing or regressing. The world, the sports science landscape, the technology landscape is vast, right? You've got to be somewhat strategic with the types of technologies that you engage with, and make sure that you don't just use lots of gimmicks and don't really do the information. Take the technology and go really deep with it and use that information to inform processes. And that's what we try to do here at the Performance Institute.
Okay, well, that's really cool. So what kind of factors that are you kind of looking at that you might be using to drive decisions?
So we've got a pretty diverse strength and power diagnostics portfolio of testing, and we've got the same diverse portfolios in energy systems development, body composition and nutrition. We have many different assessments that we will use. But again, we're periodizing our assessments, and we're also making sure our assessments are customized to the goals and needs of the individual fighter in their respective situations. So we don't always roll out the whole portfolio to everybody. We pick and choose what we need to do based on someone's goals, targets, and what they're trying to attack in their training. So, everything from reactive strength through to maximal strength, everything from, alactic energy systems through to aerobic systems, everything from body composition, whole body hydration, metabolic status, metabolic efficiency, all these different types of tests can tell us different pieces of information, but it all starts with a conversation with the coach and the athlete around what is you trying to do, how was your last performance, where does your performance need to get to in order to be world class, how are you going to continue to be improved, and what's the information that we need to give you to help you answer some of those questions along the way. So it's all customized, it's all bespoke based on the individual requirements of each guy.
So very comprehensive. And then pulling on that thread a little bit more, right? So say an athlete needs to work on strength and power, for example, right? So I know that there's a lot of factors that go into this, but generally speaking, what might a typical training session look like for an athlete with those needs?
So fighters, if they're coming in at a certain point in their training strategy, whether they're off camp or in camp, that's a big difference and a big comparison. If they're in camp and they're trying to make weight, are they on schedule to make weight? Are they ahead of schedule? Are they behind schedule? All these kind of considerations ultimately come into building out what does your workout look like. Off camp, again, we're trying to build some of those capacities and the horsepower under the hood. When we're far away from competition, you can really challenge the system and then invoke large amounts of fatigue, but at the same time get the physiological adaptations that you're trying to make closer to competition. And in camp, you've got to really balance and manage that well. Because if there's too much residual fatigue, you're ultimately influencing the technical and tactical skills of the fighter, and then that's the last thing you want. So, listen, our workouts look very different from each guy to each guy, but usually we're doing some amount of proprioceptive work, some foam rolling, some movement preparation, some fascial release work, some range of motion. We're big advocates of functional range conditioning. Here. Then obviously, you know, based on where they're at, each workout's going to look different. It might be a very high velocity, high explosive workout. It might be a heavy energy systems challenge that day. And what I will say, just to finish that question, is when we're out of camp or in our general preparation phases, we can really attack very specific physiological changes. When you're in camp and you're close to competition, you've got to kind of target all of those physiological changes that influence the fight together. So usually when we're in camp, we're working in quite a conjugated kind of approach, and when we're off camp, we'll be a bit more strategic in targeting very specific things.
Okay. And kind of on that same note, right? So say we talked a little bit about the weight training and the strength and power, right? But how might energy system development be attacked as well? Generally speaking, I know there's a lot of factors. We kind of just discussed some of them, but
I mean, energy. It's quite funny because you know, a lot of people talk about strength and conditioning coaches or S&C coaches, and it's often a big S and a little C. And people really get after strength and power training, and then they kind of can often be, you know, a bit of an empty locker when it comes to the energy systems development. And the fact of it is that even the strength power work is underpinned by energy systems. So you know, that's one area where I always try to work with junior level coaches and interns to really accelerate and upskill them around the energy systems development. But again, it comes back to understanding basic physiology and biology. And I can't stress that enough. You know, there's a certain way you can challenge lactic energy production based around certain parameters of sets, rest, duration, intensity. Same thing for your glycolytic or lactic energy production, again. And then when you look at the aerobic work, how are you doing it, and what are the physiological changes you're trying to influence? So particularly off camp or when you're doing general preparation work in a fighting or a fight specific kind of context, we can really challenge some of those energy systems developments away from the training camp. We can really try and increase the horsepower under the hood. We can really try to maximize that metabolic power potential. We can also maximize the metabolic capacity piece. And again, if you think about UFC fighters, they live in lactate. They swim in lactate. That's the nature of what our sport is. It's been shown to be a true differentiator in performance standards. So the top guys can really maximize their glycolytic energy production, whereas lower level guys can't. So that's a differentiator in performance standards and a determinant of performance for our guys. In the aerobic physiology, again, are you doing that for a weight descent or a weight cut or a body composition change, or are you doing it to try and maximize aerobic physiology, recoverability, repeatability, these types of things? So again, it's just understanding what are you trying to do and not blurring. As soon as you blend and blur things together, the body gets too many messages and you just get kind of mediocre. Off camp, we can really be very efficient in targeting very specific things, and in camp we've got to understand that blurring happens a little bit more.
I think that's a super interesting point too, because like you said, right, it's a big S little C, but when you break it down, like it just all comes down to the physiology and how the body responds to things, right? So even at your level, you're still looking at, you know, the energy systems still work the same, you know. So I think that's just a super interesting point.
I mean, whilst we understand more about physiology, a lot of it is the same physiology that we were talking about since the 1930s. So, you know, it's not that the physiology is changing, it's just we're creating more ways and methods to attack it and challenge it.
No, that's super interesting. And so comparing both of these, right, so what are some nuances and some similarities that we might kind of see between high-level fighters, right, and also, say, combat sports, say, like collegiate wrestlers or something like that?
There's a lot of similarity. I mean, a lot of the UFC fighters come out NC2A wrestling programs. And you know, it's really one of the core mainstays of being a world-class MMA fighter is wrestling, offensive and defensive wrestling skills. And I think what I would say at this level, again, is that we're probably playing, just because of the dynamics of what the NC2A is, you know, it comes back to that logistics piece where we can be very strategic in working with individual guys and targeting very specific things. I think when you work in a team environment, you can go through team practice. And if you put 20 wrestlers on a wrestling mat through the same wrestling practice, I'll guarantee you've got 20 different guys adapted in different ways. Not everybody adapts the same way. Some will adapt, more than others, and some might even go the other way, and it become a regressive process for them. So, what we can do here and at the world-class level, I think what it gives you the liberty of being able to really drill down on individual physiology and specifics of a guy's training program and training strategy and maximize their individual needs. I think that's a massive difference between a big gym or a big collegiate program where you're trying to work with 30 to 40 wrestlers at the same time potentially.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense, right? You got 30 to 40 wrestlers. There's no way that you can do the level of personal analyzing or making programs for that level of people, that number of people, right? At the same time, it's just not going to work. So that makes sense.
And don't get me wrong. Listen, I think from a motivational and a psychological perspective, I'm a massive advocate of team training. There's nothing more, and particularly in combat sports, competing against the guy next to you is the most inherent thing to a fighter. So there's a time and a place for team training. And there's a time and a place in the weight room to have group training and really amp up the atmosphere. But there's also, we need to step back at the world-class level and say, is that the best way to do it for athlete A? And is it the best way to do it for athlete B? And that, I think, what we can do through our environment is make that decision a little bit more educated.
That makes a lot of sense. And with that, do you guys kind of monitor recovery with, like, say, HRV or anything like that?
Yeah, so we use Omega Wave as a tool a lot. So again, the Omega Wave has an HRV to it. It's got DC potential of the brain, so we can look at the autonomic nervous system of the brain and that sympathetic parasympathetic balance. But there's lots of different tools out there on the market. Joel Jameson's Morpheus tool does a similar thing. You can use basic heart rate variability that you can get on your iPhone. The subjective wellness monitoring and awareness. So there's lots of different ways of doing it. We use Omega Wave here, and it's a critical tool that again, just it's not that the computer is going to say yes train or no don't train. It's just a bigger conversation piece that allows us to really interact with the fighter and their coach to say, all right, how many reps are we doing today? Is it optimal? Is it less than optimal? Is this the best decision? That's all data is ever going to do. It promotes more in-depth conversation.
I like that. Okay. All right, moving forward a little bit to leadership and continuing education, right? You touched on your staff. So does this kind of position allow you guys to have like a very large staff or team?
We're quite an agile we're quite an agile team here. There's about 22 of us at the Performance Institute in Las Vegas. Wow. We're actually opening up another facility in Shanghai in China in June of this year, and again, those performance staff will report to myself as well. So that'll expand it to about 40 guys. But it's not a massive team. As I said, I've already mentioned at the University of Notre Dame, I worked with just under 60 performance staff. And that's a large amount of people to try and keep a track on and move in the same direction. And give those staff the opportunity to present their expertise. At the same time as a manager and a director to challenge it and audit it and make sure it is going in the same direction. So big teams can be great, but they can also be a real challenge because things can go off at a tangent and it's gone too far before you recognize it and pull it back again. We don't really have that problem here because we're a super agile and responsive team.
I love that. Okay, so even with the smaller group like the one you have now, right, how do you guys all kind of stay on the same page and keep moving in the same direction?
I mean, it's talking. It's simple communication. Obviously, as the director of performance, it's my job to set the initiatives and the philosophies of how we're going to operate and interact. But then I'm very much a guy, listen, hire good people and get out of the way. Because they're world-class experts for a reason. So, I can set the agendas and initiatives, and then it's making sure that we're talking regularly, meeting about very specific performance problems, giving staff members the opportunity to own their process, and allowing that process to come to fruition. And from afar, I can then manage it and, as I say, audit it and review it with them. Again, we do a lot of communication. Our activity is set up in such a way that it promotes interaction. So we're not a multidisciplinary team, we're an interdisciplinary team in as much as we've got lots of different disciplines, but we really interact and come together to try and solve performance problems.
I like that. Okay. So on that same topic, right, what are some problems or issues or research that interests you?
I mean, in my role, I've got to kind of be abreast of everything.
Yeah.
My PhD is in exercise endocrinology, so I'm very much into resistance training and hormonal responses to exercise, in particular strength power type exercise. And I also like neurophysiology in terms of, muscle physiology from a velocity and a power expression perspective. So that's kind of basic science, but I think right now in my role, I read everything from, caloric, managing calories for weight descents and weight cuts, through to looking at recovery modalities and cryotherapy and hot tubs and sauna, and through to, traditional periodization models and everything. So I in a role like this, I have to be quite abreast of a large number of different topics in the sports science field. I think I always say, what I want, if all my strength and conditioning staff to have a real deep understanding, Now, I also need to have an understanding of nutrition and physical therapy and sports science. So I'm not going as deep as they are. They're experts. Well, I'm a former strength and conditioning coach. They're the technical experts, but I need to be more horizontal. I need to see across the piece, whereas each of the technical areas go deep in their own space. Just staying on top of where the sports science landscape and performance landscape is moving to is really critical to my role.
Okay, that's interesting. What other continuing education opportunities do you kind of recommend or are you interested in?
I mean, I like to be going to seminars and workshops and clinics and those types of things. But I think you've got to, we've only got so many dollars in our pocket, right? So, you've got to be super strategic about which ones you attend and why. We're human beings and we're often creatures of habit, so we resonate to things that we like. But if I go and listen to 10 talks on Olympic weightlifting and no talk on energy systems development, again, I'm just putting myself in a hole again, right? So be strategic. I think, networking and just trying to connect with other people in the industry. I'm privileged in my role now where I can talk to, people from Major League Baseball and the NFL and the NBA and, military and other groups like that. So, that's really rewarding for me, and it just allows me to double check my thoughts and my processes against some of my peers.
I like that. Okay. So what kind of made you decide to get your PhD, and is this something that you would kind of recommend for the position you're in or someone who wants to be there?
I mean, it's not a requirement by any means. And listen, doing a PhD is a labour-intensive process. And I look back and I hold it dear to my heart. But at the time, it was challenging. But in this type of role, I don't think you need a PhD. I think I got my PhD again to try and differentiate myself a little bit from my immediate competitors. I think if you look at the industry in this day and age, it's oversaturated with graduates trying to come out. And when I was first starting out, everyone had a BS, everyone had a bachelor's, and so people got a master's to try and differentiate themselves. So then everyone had a master's, so now I need a PhD, and it was just a way to differentiate yourself. I also had a lot of interest in continuing to learn my trade and my craft. And being from the UK, I also used my PhD to make an international trip and live overseas for a little while. Some of my friends after college did gap years and just went travelling. Well, I went travelling, but I also did my PhD at the same time. So I kind of thought I got more bang for my buck, let's say. But I think, if I put myself on the other side of the fence, when I hire people, when I'm recruiting people, I'm obviously interested in your academic background and your technical knowledge, but I hire and recruit on character first and technical second. I can give you the opportunity to learn technical things, or I can give you the information, but if you're a poor character and you don't fit into my team on day one, you're going to be a poor character on day 100. So, do I do a PhD or not is not necessarily just the only question you should be answering I'll try to answer it when you're considering your professional career moving forward.
That's an awesome answer. Yeah, I think that's a big answer too, because a lot of people say in that collegiate realm who are trying to differentiate a little bit, right? They're not sure. They're thinking, hey, should I go PhD just to do it? Then they're in school, now they're in debt, and now they don't really, they still are no closer to figuring out what they want to do.
Right.
So I think that's really important to have some direction behind it.
Yeah, I mean, I think I if I get this right, I can remember. I talk about 4 things. I mean, I always talk about your academic qualifications. You've got to show some amount of academic knowledge underpinning. Like we've already talked about, you got to know biology and physiology, right? Yeah. If I'm writing a training program based on sets, reps, load, recovery, that I need to know the biology that underpins why I'm saying 6 reps instead of 10 reps.
Yeah.
So you need to have the academic piece. You got to have your driver's license. And by driver's license, I mean you got to have your professional certification. I.e., what is the profession that you're trying to get into? As a strength and conditioning coach. Which are the awarding bodies that give you your professional driver's license to do the job?
Yeah.
You've then got to have a professional network. Make sure that you continue to network and connect with people.
Yeah.
And then you've got to also look at your continuing education and professional development that is adjunct to your academic world. So what are the other certifications and awards that give me an upskilling opportunity? So these 4 things to me are crucial for anyone at any stage in their career.
I like that. Okay, I think that's really important, and I think that's a great structure to have, right? Because not a lot of people think of it in a structured way like that, right? They think like piece by piece, and they kind of do it in a fluid way where it's like, all right, I've got this, now what's next, right? And now they're just searching, but they don't necessarily know what they're looking for. So I think to have it all laid out like that is really, it really makes things a lot easier, right? Because now you know what you're seeking after. So
yeah, and it's just the way I look at things. I'm quite a systems and a structure guy.
Yeah.
But again, the reason why I say that is the point I'm making is don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah.
Right? You've got to grow and you've got to develop on all these fronts. If you're not networking, you're not developing your interpersonal skills and your character and your ability to connect with people. If you're ignoring your academic piece, it doesn't matter if you're a good guy. I'm not going to hire you because you're not credentialed.
Yeah.
And if you can't do self-reflection and understand where you still got holes in your skill set and how you direct your continued development, again, it shows that your kind of maturity on your emotional intelligence is not where it needs to be.
I like that. Okay. And kind of moving forward, right, a little bit more questions about you specifically and kind of some things that kind of make you who you are, right? So if you have any, what are some quotes that you live by?
I mean, I always use Wayne Gretzky's quotes. You miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. That's something which I've always done in my career. Of course, I process things to say, if someone asks me to write a book chapter or write a manuscript or give this presentation, I'm processing it. But everything is an opportunity. Yeah. So you don't know what's going to come from each opportunity. So don't overwhelm yourself. But I take shots, and I've taken shots my whole career. And I'll take a punt, and if it misses, it misses. But if I'm not taking those shots, I know that I'm not growing and developing. I always say, and I'll probably butcher this quote, but people won't necessarily remember what you said or what you did, but they'll remember how you made them feel. That's a massive quote to me. I hopefully I'm a personal guy, and I can connect with people, and my athletes and my staff and people I interact with feel that I can connect with them. That's a really important one for me. And then also, like I say, if hard work beats talent if talent doesn't work hard enough.
Yeah.
There's always someone smarter than you. Always. Yeah. Now again, I'm not saying pull yourself through the ringer and be doing 20-hour days to make sure that you're working hard. Yeah. You gotta work smart. But you can work hard at being smart.
Yeah.
And that's the point I'm making, is that I'm not a person that rests on my laurels. I'm quite self-critical, and I always want to try and better myself and challenge myself. And I never feel like I'm a finished product.
I love it. Okay. Is there a thought or experience from your past that you've held on to that has made a big difference in your life now?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's lots of different. Everyone's a product of their experiences, right? I think that one thing that really sticks with me is the first day of my PhD when I've flown 4,000 miles from the UK to what was then Ball State University for my first year PhD before I moved to UConn. And I met with my new PhD supervisor and the whole of his PhD team. And he went down the line looking at every single one of his students. And he got to me at the end and he said, "Duncan, I don't even know why you're here. I must have had a moment of weakness."
Wow.
That was like the great equalizer to me in terms of, all right, nobody knows anything about me. I've got to prove myself. I've got to work up the ladder again. There's no free shots. Do you know what I mean? Everything has to be earned. So I think that was a massive something that resonates with me daily.
I love it. Okay, what's the best advice that you've ever been given?
Oh shit! God, don't eat yellow snow. No, I mean, I wouldn't even know. There's so many pieces of advice, and each one's context specific. I think people give me advice around training and an exercise selection in training, and at the same time, I'm talking to CEOs and COOs of big professional organizations, and they give me advice around people management and these types of things. So I wouldn't want to say that that's my best piece of advice. But there's, you've certainly got to figure out things that mean something at that moment in time, because often it can get lost. So, I like to reflect on a day-to-day basis and just say, all right, what happened today and how is that going to help shape me?
I like it. Okay. So in contrast to that, what's the worst advice that you've ever given?
I mean, the topic area of the worst advice, I would say, is around managing workloads and making sure that athletes are optimizing their performance. And I think when I was younger in my career, you get stuck in the trap of just doing too much and trying to fill your training plan with everything. You've got this brain that's buzzing with ideas, and I think it was not necessarily someone gave me the advice, but it was certainly something that I've learned as my career has progressed, that you'll get there. There's a time to do variation and variety. It doesn't need to be in the first training block of a new cycle. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's something that sticks with me now. And I've also come into a sport where these guys, these fighters, have to challenge their physiology, perhaps more so than any other sport. Because they've got so many training components that they need to get into mixed martial arts. And one of the risks is overtraining and overwork. So that's come back to not haunt me, but it's definitely sitting in my brain, the forefront of my brain again. Is like, okay, what are we doing to maximize athletic potential? Because we need to hit that super compensation curve. And the thing about the super compensation curve is that there's definitely a deload, right? We need to allow the body to recover and regenerate. If we just keep pushing and pushing, we get a counterproductive response, right? So that's certainly something that, as a younger professional, I didn't do the best job of.
Okay. What are some resources that have been super valuable to you or continue to be valuable to you in the topic of energy system development?
Well, I've just written a book chapter for the high performance, high intensity interval training science book by Martin Bashai and Paul Larson. So I'll recommend that to anybody. That's a massively comprehensive textbook with lots of different sport applications in that, which I've written the combat sport chapter. So shameless plug, I apologise, but I look to other professionals from other sports because again, in combat sport, there isn't too much literature and research out there. So what I'm trying to do is bring information from other professionals in other sports. Soccer and rugby and Australian rules football and all these other sports have got like pretty long heritage around research and data and literature around how different training approaches change energy systems. We need to capture that and implement it and apply it to our sport. We've got to tweak it a little bit. You can't just doing gases on a football field to try and train an MMA fighter. It might be a technical place to do that, but there's more to MMA than just that, you know. So, you know, I try and look at other sports and try and understand how they're optimizing physiology and how we can apply it to our sport.
I love it. Okay. And you mentioned the book, right? But what are some other projects that you're kind of currently working on? How can people kind of reach out to you and follow your journey?
I mean, I'm on all the social media channels, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, etc. You know, I'm pretty contactable through all of those. And, you know, I'm not super proactive, but I'm always trying to put things up that I think people will be of interest. It's not my lunch that I had yesterday, like some people do. I try and use those platforms to show something of interest. Because I really don't give a shit about what you had for lunch yesterday. But ultimately, we've got lots going on here. But I've got personally and professionally, you know, I've got new books, book chapters coming online. I'm going to be publishing some stuff this year. And then we've got the project in China with the UFC coming online. So yeah, there's a ton of cool stuff that I've got. 2019 is shaping up as a big year already, so it's exciting.
Fair enough. Well, Dr. French, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you taking the time to connect with me, and hopefully we can connect again soon in the future.
No worries, man. You know where I'm at, so please don't be scared to shout. Good luck with everything you got going on.